I'm Gorilla Pontoon, and joining us later will be an esteemed colleague of mine. Hello, everyone, and once again, welcome to Ring Into Focus, where we feature the most informed commentary on the topic of professional wrestling. We've got a great show lined up for you. Action hot and heavy. It's a happening, and here we go. Prestige, that word you saw in there. Prestige, objectivity. That's what we're about here. Not just on the topic of professional wrestling, but on everything. We seek the truth. There is a lot of virtue signaling out there on this hot topic. We have news fresh today, almost every day, on this topic of Vince McMahon being sued by Janelle Grant. Yes, that is her name, and we're going to say it because it's part of the truth. We have no agendas here other than getting to the truth and making sure you're informed with all the information that's out there and our interpretation of that, which we believe is the best. Who's we? It's me, Gorilla Pontoon, and we're going to go ahead and bring on in my esteemed colleague at this point. From Sydney, Australia, it's LiquidBlake.
Come on out, you rapist.
Can I try it?
Yeah, why not?
Come on out, you rapist!
All I've been thinking about like this last week is that I don't know if you remember it, that there's this promo Vince cut on Ric Flair like early 2000s-ish, where it was like calling him a lascivious.
When he first came in, right? After the invasion, when they should have paid him off, and then they wound up paying off his contract anyway. Yeah, that stupid era. Yeah, I remember that. Anyway, what was the promo?
Oh, he was going after Ric Flair like you're a lascivious dog or like a lascivious pig. You are a disgusting like person and all this shit.
Yeah.
And it's just like just wait a while. It'll come out about Vince as well. I mean, not saying anything good about Ric Flair.
No, and the more I learned about him over the years, the less I liked him. I think the first, and I mean in real life, obviously, I think the first thing was his own book that came out around, what, 04, 05, something like that, around the same time the DVD set did. Mm-hmm. And just a lot of the stories he told in there, it's like, man, what a dick. And then you find out about his kids and all that. And yeah, these guys are on the road and all that stuff, but others found ways not to have such jacked up relationships. And even then, after he was like pretty much retired, his youngest son, Reed, right? Why didn't he pay more attention to him and prevent that horrible thing from happening? Now, I think everything is on the individual, but at the same time, he knew his son had problems and he could have been more involved than gallivanting around the country and making rap songs with rappers and all that stuff. And he should have been paying attention to his adult son.
Well, it's kind of like the same for Flair and Vince. Like, it's almost like their on-screen personas overtook their real life in a way that, like you don't want to expect, you don't want to experience, because actors, wrestlers, once leave it in the ring, leave it at the stadium or the arena or whatever. Once they start taking that character home, that's when all those problems start, I think.
Right. And here's another thing. There was an interview. I should have had this pulled up and ready, but at some point I want to make like a comprehensive video on this once all the information shakes out and stuff. But there was an interview he gave. I can't remember who it was with, but it was like with a semi-relevant sports interview person. And he talked about things that happened to him when he was younger. And after all this stuff has come out over the last couple of years, maybe some of it's true, because he talks about how he was abused and how he had experiences with men and stuff. Do you remember that?
Who?
Vince.
No.
We'll have to dig that up, but it was a real thing about 20 years ago. And I don't think it was Bob Costas. It was somebody he gave an interview to, and he told all these weird stories about things that happened to him. And it's like, wow, maybe some of that was true. And I'm not excusing anything he's done or allegedly has done. But if it is true, then obviously he wasn't able to fight past that. As for the news itself, the basic situation is that this Janelle Grant has filed lawsuit against him, against John Laurinaitis, A.K.A. Johnny Ace, inventor of the Ace Crusher, whether you want to call that the RKO or the Stone Cold Stunner, whatever. I remember him being with the Sheep Herders, A.K.A. the Bushwhackers, in the 80s. He was the flag bearer and all that stuff. And then, he never really took off. His career was more about backstage as an agent, mid-level management executive.
Yeah, that's how I know the name.
Yes. And he is also, related to Hawk. Yeah, so we got to keep that in mind. So, in any event, the latest...
if you remember Hawk.
Yeah. It's against him, and it's also against TKO itself, WWE, the current owner, right? That's what the lawsuit is about. It's against them about alleged trafficking is one of the terms used, where Vince passed her around, sexual abuse and stuff like that. So I have the lawsuit pulled up. We're going to get into that. But first, I want to go over some stuff so that we can read certain phrases and sections of it and to how it relates to the news. So now John is coming out and saying he was also a victim because Vince made him do things. And guess what? The lawsuit you can't take what's in the lawsuit as truth at face value, but if true, then this is what I think happened. It's not so much, what he's saying is correct. He also was. I think his lawyer was smart, read the suit and said, hey, there's a way we can tack onto this and make you look like a victim as well.
Yeah, we'll play the equal opportunity card. Like if Vince is using his power over a woman underneath him, why wasn't he using it over Johnny as well? But the more you look into that, the murkier it gets with John Laurinaitis' involvement and how much power he had over her as well, because he was essentially her boss as well when Vince shelved her off to him.
Yeah, and here's one example, and we don't want to get into all the examples this early on, but one of the examples is when the defecation part allegedly happened. She was, I think, supposed to be having sex with Laurinaitis. So that's one of the stories out there. So
there's some stories out there.
Yeah, and that's part of the current news, and then reactions to who knew it and when did they know it.
Well, that's where that whole
cancel
TKO
culture
thing comes into it as well, I think.
Yeah, it's cancel
how
culture
complicit
shit.
were they?
And we're going to get into that too, because if you're going to say she was a victim, if you're going to even buy into John was a victim, then who else was, potentially? If you're under someone's power, where is the line between you're a victim and you're not? That's what we're going to get into here.
Poor Bruce Pritchard, was he a victim?
Yeah, well, he's having tricep surgery. I don't know if you heard that one.
No.
Been hitting that bench too hard. So
no, I've been listening to Jim Cornette through most of this. It's been interesting.
Yeah, it's always interesting listening to that guy.
Yeah.
So just a couple of things here. Let's touch on.
Well, first, I just want to say, because all this, like, this isn't new news. Like, this has been out for quite a while. It's just that some of the details are leaking. Like, this is like a year old. A lot of this stuff, even the stuff for John Laurinaitis and all this, it's just that the actual details are starting to leak now with a lot of this stuff.
Part of
and a lot of it, I think, is coming down to because Vince refused to keep paying her off. That's why a lot of this stuff's coming out.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that. And part of the other current news from today is, hey, oh no, all these outlets resharing Wall Street Journal, he's under federal investigation. We've known that for 2 years almost. That came out when the stuff first started coming out, I think.
Yeah,
July,
and then when
August
you heard
22.
about when you heard about all the hush money payments equaling up to something like $12 million between 4 women, which one of the women is allegedly what's her name? Grant? No.
Janelle Grant.
Janelle Grant, yeah. One of them is her, and the other 3 were former employees as well, which has been speculated broadly about who they were. But because it's like dating back to incidents in like 2005, 2006, and 2008.
Yeah, $7.5 million settlement that was uncovered. That's how a lot of this started coming out, and
yeah,
it was
which a lot of
an
people,
on-screen performer that they never identified.
Yeah,
I mean, it was an oral sex thing.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to say, but a lot of people have been alleging people from like Christy Hemme to people even were saying Molly Holly, just because of like the timeline, because someone who got fired in like 2005. Yeah.
Well, he also liked
the only one that's sort of like Christy Hemme's been completely silent since her time there. So that's where I think a lot of the people put 2 and 2 together.
He also liked, I can't think of her name. I never really cared for her looks or anything else. She was kind of tall, had a kind of an odd shaped body, and she was on all the GoDaddy commercials. And this is 04-05 era during that time. I can't think of her name, but I was never impressed with her at all. She won the contest, I think, possibly.
Not Dawn Marie. Dawn? Was it Dawn?
No. She was from ECW.
Yeah.
This is some lady that I think she won one of those contests. And then for a couple of years, she was, oh, hey, look at her. And then she just kind of faded away. And she did the GoDaddy commercials where she would snap her hand above her head and slowly twirl. That was her stupid thing, her taunt. I just can't think of... He was all over her all the time on screen and doing his pervert type thing. So I always thought maybe it was her.
Oh, man, there's so many candidates from that era.
Oh,
like that was like... That was, like... You could tell, like, Vince was almost living his dream in some of those segments. And those... some of the women were more...
Candice Michelle.
Yeah, that's it. I knew it had an M in there somewhere.
Yeah, she had an odd shaped face and body. Anyway,
yeah, but
we're not being superficial or anything today. So.
No, that era of Vince, like with the Trish Stratus stuff, the Stacy Keibler and the Tori Wilson, like everyone was speculation was rampant, and it's probably true that maybe something was going on.
Yeah. So that's something else. Hey, he's being federally investigated. Yeah, he has been since 2002. I'm looking at a story here, July 25th, 2022. Yeah. SEC and federal prosecutors, I guess, from the Justice Department.
Yeah, so that got the ball rolling in all this.
But that's typical media, something takes off and then without even checking, they just start, oh, I got to do a story on that and that. And then it just blows up. It's like, old news, guys. It just reaffirms what we already knew.
Yeah. Well, it's just the details now that are coming out that are
correct.
So fucking bizarre that it's just no one. Like, if 2024, did you have on your bingo card, we're going to find out that Vince shits on people? That's like, that's a stretch.
No, I didn't have it on my bingo card, but if I did, I really wouldn't be surprised if anyone had it on theirs. I'll put it that way. I mean, seriously, put down anything about him, and unlikely that I'll say, nah, take that one off there, just based on all that we know.
Oh, yeah. just yeah, Vince is a different kind of animal.
It would have been awkward timing. I came up with this essay video idea a couple of months ago, and no, it wouldn't have been like in a Scottish accent, like 90% of those stupid wrestling essay videos are that I can't even watch. It's like,
well, they might be from Scotland.
What's Steve Austin's real name?
Williams.
Williams. Steve Williams was born in Austin, Texas. Like, shut up. Like, get a bot to read your script or something.
No, I like. There's one that there's one that's a British one that I like. I think it's like Wrestling Bios or something.
Yeah, that's the one that annoys me. I don't like that one. I can't watch it.
Just turn the captions on and put it on mute.
What was I going to say there? Oh yeah, I was going to come up with this video essay idea, and I'm glad I didn't because it's kind of weird timing. Or maybe I'm pissed off I didn't because I could have caught the algorithm, but I'm not going to talk about it right now, but the gist of the video will be Vince McMahon single-handedly brought down one of the biggest crime rings in U.S. history.
Oh, yeah, I remember you saying that.
I'll leave it at that. We have a good number of people in the chat. Let's go ahead and start greeting them. Melissa Lord, first ever member of Open-Airlock Policy in the channel. There you are. And yes, everyone, hit the like button, please. And share the stream out
Smash
there.
it.
We usually don't talk a lot about wrestling, but maybe that'll change. This is a hot topic. Mr. Alex 789 is in the house. Yeah, we have seen. That's what we're talking about. Dvslord saying howdy because guess what, guys? We say howdy here. We have got Justin, the Star Wars Marvel purist, saying howdy. What's going on?
Howdy.
So
Howdy.
What else do we have? I wanted to get into kind of the cancellation stuff.
Shout out to Roddy Piper.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to zoom in here so that we can see this lawsuit. Hey, I got a question for you. This is kind of crazy, but in your country, are lawsuits public information like they are here, unless they've been sealed by a judge?
I honestly wouldn't know. I'm assuming they'd just be public, yeah, unless they're sealed.
Okay.
But there might be like a couple of years or something, like a cooling off period or a statute of limitations or something. But I honestly don't know.
Got it. So here it is, District of Connecticut. Oh, by the way, gosh, I wish I would have pulled this meme up. I meant to. Remember Mr. America?
Yeah.
So
which one?
When Hogan was Mr. America, he kind of did like a Dusty thing when Dusty was the Midnight Rider in the 80s. Mm. So somebody said it was a TKO public announcement, whatever, and it was like TKO welcomes new board member, Mr. Connecticut, and it was like obviously Vince like in a mask.
He just creeps back in. Oh fuck!
Someone
I could
find
imagine
that meme and
I could imagine that.
I found it yesterday.
I could so picture Vince doing that, just creeping back in like this. No, they don't notice me.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's like Stephanie and Triple H are at the door. They're just like, "Can you believe this guy? Like, you're not fooling us this time, Vince."
Mr. Connecticut.
Yeah.
So, once again, the suit is against WWE, Vince, and John Laurinaitis. And just so you guys know, one of the tasks that I have in my job, it's not something we should be doing, but we have to because, quite frankly, we don't have the talent in our legal team, especially for the type of contracts that my department signs, is to... Hell, I've written entire contracts and have them reviewed by one of our attorneys, and then, okay, a few things change here and there, send it out. So I've done information technology ones. I've done ones for, like, supply type stuff, consulting, like, all different kinds. So I have some experience in interpreting these things, understanding the structure of them, and how different sections they have to complement each other and not contradict each other, stuff like that. So I don't do it every single week, not even every single month, but at least once a year we have some big ones that we have to go over, and I have some experience in this. That's my point. Oh, it's Shad in the house. What's going on?
Four Corners podcast.
4C, baby. So, complaint.
Oh,
She and her counsel, again, it's against all three of them. She's a former employee filing lawsuit, not just to address her own suffering, but also to act for those who are afraid to speak out. Billionaire
that's the thing,
founder.
Like floodgates could open after this.
Oh, and that's what everyone's saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Billionaire founder. I don't know what billionaire has to do with anything. So this is what's interesting. He lived in a penthouse duplex. So this kind of
Warlight.
well, it lends credence to the theory that he and Linda have like a sham marriage, right?
Yeah, I mean, from all reports, she lives down in Florida or whatever, and he's like full time, and he's splitting between an apartment in New York and this Connecticut condo.
That's why she's hanging out with Trump so much, because, they've been spotted at dinners. There was that weird one where it was her. What's the rapper guy's name that was married to the Kardashian?
Oh, Kanye West.
Kanye and some other just random character at dinner with him about a year and a half ago. I'm like, what a motley crew that was.
You stumble into the restaurant and you see that, you're just like, that's a double take.
Yeah, I'd be like, snap, there's my selfie. So he was living in the penthouse. The two met in March 2019. She was dealing with profound grief and struggling financially after devoting years to around-the-clock caregiving. Parents passed away. On top of that, she was unemployed and her family home was lost in her parents' bankruptcy. I know how that is. Happened to me too, because my parents were not good planners. That'll never happen to my kids. After her family passed away, Ms. Grant dedicated herself to finding gainful employment. Neighbors in her building. So wait a minute here. If Vince is living in the penthouse in this building, even like the smallest available unit can't be a cheap one in this building. Am I wrong in assuming that?
Oh yeah, I'm assuming this is like a extremely exclusive, like if it's not like inside a gated community, it's like a top of the line apartment building with like, yeah, you're not getting anything in there for under like a few million at least.
Exactly. Struggling financially. Maybe that's relative to how she was used to living. I don't know. Neighbors in her building provided career advice and sought her assistance with personal events. Ms. Grant used these non-paying roles in volunteer work and community initiatives to build her resume. Well, why didn't you just get a job? I mean, nothing against her, but it's like, you get a job. You know what I mean? There had to have been some opportunity where all that time spent in this volunteer work could have been something paying. That's what I tell people all the time. Think about how you use your time. And if you're struggling financially, every single spare minute you have should be devoted to making cash. That's all there is to it. Period.
Print money.
Once you're
make as much cash as you can. Just print it.
Yeah, exactly. Once your bills are paid off, once your credit cards are caught up, then you can start doing volunteer stuff. You can start taking time off, spending money on vacations. But I don't want to see anyone whining about not having money and not devoting all their time to having 2 jobs, 3 jobs, whatever. I had to do it, so I'm not being a hypocrite here. King Chris is in the house saying howdy. The building's resident manager wanted to help. She messaged McMahon to ask whether he would talk to her, sharing that Ms. Grant had been through hardship and would do great things if given a fresh start. McMahon enthusiastically responded, hell yes. Like, this is a weird suit.
Yeah.
Like,
is this
why
woman's
would
name
they even
Ghislaine?
put that? What?
I was going to say, is this woman
I was
that's
about
like,
to say the same thing. I was about to say, is this the mistress here? Like,
yeah,
what's
like
happening?
she's finding people for Vince. No, like, yeah, this whole situation's very strange. Like Vince is just like swooping in on a vulnerable person in his building, and like people seemingly knew about it earlier. Like,
But just the language here. Why would they like quote him as saying "hell yes"? Who was there to see that? Grant wasn't there. Did they talk to the resident manager? How do they know he said "hell yes" with
it
two
was just trying to,
exclamation points?
he's trying to quote Steve Austin. He's like,
I
hell yeah.
guess. Jeez.
But Vince is getting old. He forgot it was hell yeah, not hell yes.
McMahon.
That's how I imagine some of this stuff is like. I don't understand how you look at him moving around, how Vince isn't just like 24/7, like someone's just helping him get around, but he's doing all this shit. It blows my mind.
Yeah, good point. McMahon befriended Ms. Grant, giving her hopes of a new life with promises of a yet-to-be-determined role at WWE and showering her with attention and assurances, along with gifts like a VIP experience at WrestleMania. But what seemed like a dream in the spring of 2019 quickly became a nightmare as McMahon dangled career-making and life-changing promises in front of Ms. Grant. He demonstrated an increasing lack of boundaries. During several meetings that were ostensibly about a potential job at WWE, he greeted her in his underwear, touched her, repeatedly asked for hugs, and spent hours sharing intimate details about his personal life. So that's, at that point,
Run.
run.
It's like, honestly, like if he answers the door in his underwear, run.
Yeah. Like, what do you think's happening here? You know he has a peephole. He knew who was there. But again, I'll get into this in the conclusion later. I don't want to get into it now. McMahon warned Ms. Grant to keep her closeness secret, lest rumors lead to public trouble, and added that while he protects loyal people, he had world-class legal resources on speed dial to deal with people who became a problem. Wonder if he's talking about Jerry McDevitt.
I think there's a long list of people he's talking about.
Let's see. As such, when McMahon pushed Ms. Grant for a physical relationship in return for long-promised employment at WWE, she felt trapped in an impossible situation, submitting to McMahon's sexual demands or facing ruin. Ms. Grant feared she had everything to lose and faced negative consequences no matter what happened. Then, if that last sentence is true, then why continue on if no matter what happened? Right?
Good point.
I don't know. After succumbing to the pressure for a physical relationship, Ms. Grant was slotted into an entry-level position as an administrator coordinator, a position McMahon created for her in WWE's legal department. Ms. Grant, that's ironic, Ms. Grant began work in that role on June 17th, 2019. Ms. Grant remained in that role, with the exception of a temporary relocation to XFL that never got off the ground because of COVID, until McMahon verbally directed her to transfer to the Talent Relations Department, reporting to defendant John Laurinaitis on March 9th, 2021. During a conversation the same day, McMahon explained that her presence in the legal department was effectively delaying efforts to hire a new general counsel for the company. McMahon and Laurinaitis informed Ms. Grant that she would be promoted to Vice President of Operations in the Talent Relations Department, providing her with an organizational chart reflecting this decision. So she's going to go from secretary to vice president?
Yeah.
Wow. Because that's what an administrator is. A clerk. It's, yeah. I guarantee in any typical company, even like in New York City, an administrator probably pays $60,000, not much more than that. So
It's one hell of a jump.
yeah, no shit. Shortly thereafter, they informed her that they needed her to begin at lower level as a director, but promised her promotion to VP after a 12-month period. That's a long period.
She was on like
Ms.
100 grand up to like 300
Mhm.
or 200. She tried to negotiate for 3. They were trying to get her 300, but I think she was on like 200 grand a year by the end of this, and then she got the payment as well.
Honestly, like for a VP in that company that makes as much that they do, I mean, they have high revenue. I'm not sure about their margin, but that's that's kind of low to be at that level in a
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's just a
entertainment
sham,
company.
yeah, but I mean, if it's just a sham position,
Yeah,
and
good
you're-
point. Good point. Should I know people 3 levels down in smaller companies that are clearing $1 million a year? Let's catch this here. We got our buddy Lethal Lightning for $2 Australian. Vince was already top G, but now he's super top.
yeah. Vince is in the Matrix.
Who's surprised at Lethal having that take, right? And Lethal, rewind it to get our Vince impressions of, you know, which impression it is. I don't even need to tell you. Rewind to the beginning to see that. We got to play something for this. We haven't played any clips. Do I have any wrestling clips?
Come on out.
Yeah, I should have gotten a clip of that one. Just didn't have a lot of time. Let's just play some Frank Sinatra here.
You don't scare me. I got chunks of guys like you in my stool.
The great Phil Hartman.
Great quote there. Let's see. Despite Ms. Grant's expressions of unhappiness and attempts to end the sexual relationship, and while she came to understand that McMahon expected the physical relationship to continue as part of her employment, she had no idea how sordid it would become, nor how the psychological torture and physical violence would leave her feeling helpless, isolated, and trapped. In March 2020, McMahon began sharing sexually explicit photographs and videos of Ms. Grant, including pornographic content he recorded with other men both inside and outside the company, including with members of the television production tech team, executives, producers, and a world-famous athlete and former UFC heavyweight champion with whom WWE was actively trying to sign to a new contract, and ultimately did. Wonder who that is.
Well, everyone's saying it's Brock, but I can't remember because they were going after Cain Velasquez for a while. Did they ever hire Cain Velasquez in WWE?
Yeah, he was on TV about a year and a half ago with
It
Rey
could be
Mysterio.
him. Like everyone's saying it's Brock Lesnar. It could easily be Cain Velasquez.
Yeah, that's true. But everyone's talking about Brock. Like, we're going to watch some Wrestling Observer later
and
see what Dave and Brian say.
It's like a weird little fit because, you know, everyone's heard this Vince McMahon stories where he's had like this obsession with Sable, like through her whole time in WWF, and then Brock ends up marrying Sable. It's like, you know, one of those things like, you know, did Vince give Sable to Brock?
Oh my gosh. Hey, Jack, thanks for being here, but we said world heavyweight champion, not a loser in UFC. I don't even, did he ever even go to UFC? I think he was in some other...
he had 2 fights. He had 2 fights there.
Actually in that promotion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't go well.
You know who was an ass kicker in MMA? Bobby Lashley.
Oh, yeah. Did like he was doing a lot of lower level stuff, but he never...
He was, but at least he won.
Yeah, I know, yeah. But I mean, like, you know, talking about ass kickers in MMA and wrestling, Ken Shamrock, he was the beast.
Yeah, and you know, the Lion's Den was about 10, 15 minutes from my last house in California.
Yeah.
It was in Lodi. Yeah, he was an ass kicker. And you know, Frank isn't his real brother either.
Isn't it?
Nope.
No, I didn't know that.
No, they're not blood brothers. They were in that same boys' home. So.
Oh, okay.
Given McMahon's omnipotent position at WWE, coercion was inherent in his increasingly depraved sexual demands. Specifically, while McMahon was CEO of WWE and Ms. Grant was employed as an entry-level coordinator in the legal department, McMahon recruited individuals to have sexual relations with Ms. Grant and or with the two of them. Directed Ms. Grant to visit defendant Laurinaitis prior to the start of workdays for sexual encounters, and expected and directed Ms. Grant to engage in sexual activity at the WWE headquarters, even during working hours. But those are working hours.
This reads like a demon's manual.
Yeah. All this time, McMahon ordered Ms. Grant to keep their relationship secret unless otherwise instructed, including lying to maintain whatever cover stories he fabricated. McMahon's assurances that Ms. Grant was safe and independent rang hollow in light of his efforts to isolate her from friends and attempts to chip away at her identity until it was replaced with his desired role for her as his bitch, his fantasy, and or his porn star, while occasionally intermixing softer descriptors like girlfriend and baby and even love when convenient. He exercised complete ownership and control over both her personal and professional lives.
This is scary.
If true, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the accusations, everything I'm saying is based on the legal accusations here. I'm not saying if it's true or not, but this is scary stuff.
Well, and Sylvar Ogre in the house, and it goes beyond that, man. It's
because I'm not interested in pro wrestling these days either. But this is like 20 years worth of stuff as well, nearly.
Yeah. McMahon also subjected Ms. Grant to acts of extreme cruelty and degradation that caused Ms. Grant to disassociate and or become numb to reality in order to survive the horrific encounters. As one example of McMahon's extreme depravity, on May 9, 2020, he defecated. For some reason it's a little distorted right there. He defecated on Ms. Grant during a threesome and then commanded her to continue pleasuring his friend with feces in her hair and running down her back, while McMahon went to the bathroom to shower off. Upon his return to the bathroom, McMahon and his friend actively resumed the threesome, which lasted over an hour and a half, while Ms. Grant remained covered in McMahon's filth. When McMahon's friend left, McMahon ordered her to stay and to continue to sexually gratify him.
This is like that. Remember he used to do the slop bucket? Like he like threw it on Trish Stratus once, I think.
Yep.
It's like it's almost like he was telling you in the segments, this is gonna come out one day.
Yeah. That's a good point. In June 2021, McMahon and defendant Laurinaitis sexually assaulted Ms. Grant inside Laurinaitis' office in WWE headquarters while colleagues were busy at their desks. Behind a locked door, the two men cornered her and pulled her in between them, forcibly touched her, before ultimately putting her on top of a table between them. She begged them to stop, but they forced themselves on her, each taking turns restraining her for the other while saying, "No means yes, and take it, bitch."
Ugh.
Unsurprisingly, others at WWE knew what was going on, but instead of intervening to protect Ms. Grant, WWE actively sought to conceal the wrongdoing. Two more sections here. Go ahead.
Like complicit. Like that's I think the whole thing's the part about going after TKO. Like, because a year ago, like a lot of this was supposedly investigated by the board. Like, you know, Stephanie, Triple H, and that's why apparently Stephanie and Vince's relationship's just irreparable now. But like, there has to be like some level of complicity in the. I'm not saying like you know, they condoned it or anything, but they had to know something was going on. I mean, not just apart from the huge cash payments he's giving out to people, I guess hush money and gift cards and other things, but how in this day and age, how do you not know what's going on?
Yeah.
What? Carl Weathers.
Wait, is this breaking news here? Yep.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, we'll have to cover that tonight. R.I.P. Carl Weathers.
Keep that stew going.
Baby, I got a stew going.
Baby, you got a stew going.
And honestly, you know, just for a few minutes on this topic, like the Rocky movies, it's like, wow, just another example of, hey, these guys that made it big doing something, having like cool stuff. Finally in my life, I was able to watch television from a swimming pool like Apollo did in Rocky 4. Now I can do that. And ever since I saw that when I was a kid, I'm like, holy shit, that's cool.
That's what I want to do.
Yes. So Carl Weathers.
He was my
badass.
favorite part of Rocky, Apollo.
Yeah. R.I.P. Carl Weathers. Talking about it tonight. 2 more sections here, and then we'll catch the super chat. In January 2022, McMahon told Ms. Grant that his wife had found out about their relationship, purportedly to avoid divorce, negative publicity, and other repercussions. McMahon said that Ms. Grant's time at WWE was at an end, but that he wanted her to sign an NDA, that's non-disclosure agreement, possibly even a non-disparaging agreement, to ensure her silence on, among other things, his personal misconduct. In the days ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, didn't want to get Linda involved to avoid other repercussions. If Vince doesn't want to keep paying out, like, you know, what was it, like a couple of $1 million to one of these people to keep them quiet, he's not going to even remotely think about giving most of his personal wealth to Linda in a divorce. Like, he can't even get away with paying wrestlers out. Like, he will do anything to keep this from Linda. Like, she's like I think she's the scariest force in Vince's life. Like, he doesn't care about the board, all this other shit. He just doesn't want Linda to find out.
And do you know why that's true? Because it came across on screen. Because remember, like, she hadn't been on television in 8 months or something, and then that WrestleMania music hits, and then the crowd, like, there's this huge pop because they knew she was coming out to fuck Vince over. You know what I mean? Like, here comes that music, and the crowd's like popping, you know, because here she comes with that look on her face, and that because it came across on screen because that's probably how it was in real life.
Yeah, so, like she looked like she just sort of like, I'm not taking your shit anymore, Vince.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just went through the storyline of the divorce after X7. I was rewatching every 30 years. I did 81, 91, and 01. And that was that storyline right after X7, after the, you know, thing where she was drugged and all that stuff. In the days ahead, McMahon put Ms. Grant under immense pressure to sign the NDA, saying that refusing would not only jeopardize McMahon, his family, and the company, but that she'd surely become a public headline, suffer reputational ruin, including from the pornographic content McMahon had captured, and face McMahon's legal resources. Conversely, McMahon reassured her that her signature would ensure that his continued support and protection and safeguard her reputation. Ultimately, Ms. Grant succumbed to the pressure and signed the NDA in exchange for payments, which McMahon later stopped making. That's the important part. Later stopped making.
Like, this is like everything. Like, he's losing everything. He could potentially lose everything because of this. And it's coming down to because he didn't want to keep paying, you know, like, granted, a lot of money, millions of dollars, but to him, pennies.
Yeah. And I've never seen an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, a confidentiality agreement, whatever you want to call it. I've never seen one with conditions, anything like that. I've seen them where, hey, you know, this will last for 3 years. I've seen evergreen ones, which means you sign it, you can never disclose anything for the rest of your natural life. But I've never seen one that said, hey, we'll pay you. It's possible if it's a contract, it's a contract.
But also, I don't
So-
think they also completely negate you from like illegal activities. Like
No,
if you're-
they don't. They don't.
Yeah, like
no.
yeah. So
Nothing does.
like if it's an NDA, like and it's still a legal matter, like they could still just say it's a legal case.
Right.
I don't care about your NDA.
But my point is, I don't think he would have put in the contract that I'm going to pay you, and that's why he stopped paying. Because if he stopped paying, knowing that it was in there, he knew that she could have started talking about it.
Oh yeah,
So,
that kickstart the legal process
Right.
straight away. It
So-
was like a under the table type deal.
yeah. $5 from Melissa Lord. R.I.P. Vinnie Mac. I heard they have his phone and PC, and that's, I think, as early as today. I saw something about they were planning on getting it. I don't know if it's happened yet.
Well, yeah,
Could have happened during this stream.
just that comment he said before about like, the things I have, the pornographic material I have of you. Like, seriously, if you're saying shit like that and it's still on your phone or your PC, you're a fucking idiot, Vince. You're even dumber than I thought you were.
Well, and it never goes away anyway. It's
Yeah,
going to be in the cloud somewhere, And if so, he's done. If this is true,
Yeah.
this stuff is disgusting, trafficking. It's unreal. Yeah.
If this is true, his legacy's done. Like, like worse than Benoit. Like, I saw something, fucking one of those internet wrestling like meme generator sites, and it was Chris Benoit's waiting in hell for Vince McMahon, just rubbing his hands.
Oh man. Yeah, that's always a good plan, listening fat. Oh, but thanks for the $5 super chat,
Yes, thank
Melissa.
you.
Appreciate it. Let's play something for that too, as I get a drink of coffee here. Let's play some Ken Patera, winner of Pan American Games medals.
Will you give a message to the women of Miami for us?
The women of Miami, stay in the kitchen and stay in the bedroom. That's it.
Great. Okay.
All right. Can't say that even in a promo anymore. 25.
Oh,
Even
no.
after what?
Oh no! These days the promos are so vanilla and milk toast. It's just nothing like Roddy Piper would be arrested leaving an arena if he did one of his promos today.
Absolutely. Or assaulted.
Yeah, or if they
He was back then, to be honest.
Yeah, they'd try to do it today, but they'd all be too fucking weak, and he'd just slap him around.
Mm-hmm. Even after pushing Ms. Grant out of the company and muzzling her with an NDA, McMahon continued efforts to exploit her, including attempting to traffic her to a WWE star who would be in New York City for a live event and TV taping in March 2022. 26. Understandably, defendant's predatory conduct has left Ms. Grant crippled, both physically and mentally. Physically? Let's see if they elucidate on that, including from debilitating symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder and suicidal ideation. These symptoms led her to her termination from her subsequent job, running her building's operations due to her inability to leave her home for weeks at a time. Despite McMahon's promise of reputational protection, WWE appears to have leaked information that led to the public disclosure of her name by a media blogger who cited a source in #WWE with direct knowledge of the situation, which, upon information and belief, was an overt intimidation tactic aimed at Ms. Grant. I don't know if that makes any sense or not. Because why would they leak that when it's potentially damaging information to their company and themselves? Right?
It's Triple H. He'll do anything to get the top job. He's just stabbing everyone to get it. No, yeah, that's. I mean, someone in the company who had enough, like a whistleblower type thing, but WWE, like corporate, like as an entity, that's a strange one.
Yeah, it is. WWE also attempted to sweep the matter under the rug, following media reports that McMahon was involved in a hush money payment scandal. WWE released a statement June 22 to announce that a special committee of its board of directors was investigating the alleged misconduct and appointing Stephanie McMahon as interim CEO and interim chairwoman. In this
And
capacity,
this is that's what got the ball rolling. All that the payments being made public, payments being revealed, and then everything just started hitting the fan for Vince from that point on.
In this capacity, Ms. McMahon publicly affirmed her commitment to doing everything in her power to help the special committee complete its work and to implement its findings. She also declared the importance of a safe and collaborative workplace. Notwithstanding this public statement, the investigation was a sham.
Pretty much.
In November 2022, WWE touted the conclusion of the special committee investigation into the misconduct. Yet the special committee never even bothered to interview Ms. Grant or request any documents, despite Ms. Grant stating that she would cooperate. In SEC filings, that's the Securities and Exchange Commission, which quite frankly should have been defined in this before abbreviating it, because it's not the Southeastern Conference in college sports, right? I mean, where'd she get this lawyer? Did he get his or her license from like a Cracker Jack box? In SEC filings, the company tried to divert attention away from McMahon's abuse of women by focusing on the technical issue of how hush money was accounted for. In the words of the company, the issue was immaterial accounting errors related to certain payments that Mr. McMahon agreed to make during the period from 2006 through 2022, emphasis added. Through all this trauma, Ms. Grant has endured profound suffering in silence, feeling of exploitation, loss of security, and the fear of facing the wrath of WWE and McMahon's army of attorneys if she were to come forward and bring to light the egregious acts detailed herein. That time is past, and Ms. Grant seeks to hold defendants accountable for their reprehensible and unlawful acts, for her own sake and for others. Point 33, last part of the charge here. Ms. Grant seeks a declaratory judgment that her NDA is invalid under federal and state laws and asserts claims other laws, including Trafficking Victims Protection Act. So that act, right, I think it's quote-unquote the Biden law. I think that came out a couple of years ago. I don't believe it's retroactive. It would only be on contracts signed going forward. That's what I believe. We'll have to look into that more. Parties. Yeah, so she's the plaintiff here, and then it's against Vince, WWE, and John Laurinaitis.
Mm-hmm.
At all times relevant, WWE corporate officer number 2 was a high-ranking. These are non-party. What that means is they're part of the evidence, the alleged evidence, but they're not on the hook for it. They're not defendants, correct? Yeah. At all times, corporate officer number 2 was a high-ranking employee at WWE who made hiring decisions, conducting prospective employee interviews, and maintained significant control over personnel decisions. WWE corporate officer number 2 worked in these capacities during Ms. Grant's employment with WWE. This individual is referred to herein as WWE corporate officer number 2. At all times relevant, number 1 was a high-ranking employee and board member at WWE during Ms. Grant's employment. Blah, blah, blah. And then there's a number 3. Number 4. And then WWE Superstar is a professional wrestling superstar who performs at WWE-branded wrestling events during the time of her employment. McMahon signed WWE Superstar to a new booking contract. Okay. So jurisdiction. Okay, so state law claims in Connecticut, District of Connecticut, So here's where they get into the factual allegations, and I think this is where Laurinaitis' lawyer is going to try to say, hey, he was also a victim. But that then legitimizes stuff that's said in here, which in turn, right, throws his former boss under the bus.
Yep.
Because you can't say, oh, he was a victim, and also say,
if there was
well,
nothing.
correct, yes. Without saying, hey, what Vince did is a lie. What they're saying Vince did is a lie. Prior to having any involvement, she was dealing with profound grief. Yeah, we covered that. See if we can find anything on Laurinaitis here. Groom her. Yeah, there's more creepy stories in here. This is weird. Around that time, McMahon also told Ms. Grant that he would never forget how helpless she looked when they first met, that he wanted to wrap his arms around her and assured her that everything is going to be okay and that Ms. Grant's problems were in the past. McMahon also told Ms. Grant that he viewed her as a true friend.
It's a lie. Her problems were in the past.
See if we can do a Control F here.
For Johnny Ace.
Yeah. I don't think this damn thing works that way.
It's not going to just find you half a word.
Eh. I wanted to sit down and read this whole thing when I had time, but this thing is long. Look at this, 329 points. 329 points in here.
Yeah.
Gosh, there's you read what I read?
Yeah, 321.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're gonna have to have a follow-up in a month or so, because I need to read this entire thing.
Yeah.
But again, John Laurinaitis' attorney is basically saying stuff in here proves that he was also a victim. And that's the story I saw out there yesterday, where that was like the story of the day in relation to this topic.
Yeah, that he was going to basically join the Me Too movement.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I do like, do you think Vince is going to use CTE as an excuse to try and get out of this?
I think he's going to use anything at his disposal to try and get out of this.
But I mean, like the years he's been like fighting against, like the like WWE and him have been fighting against, you know, the impact of brain injuries and repeated head knocks and stuff in the industry, and you know, saying the wrestlers' deaths and all these other related problems aren't anything to do with it. I think he's going to come out and they're going to, if he gets fucked over for this, he's going to come out and put it all on CTE. The chair shots he's had all the time in the ring and everything. He's going to put it all down to that and try and get some sort of criminal insanity thing from it.
Well, and don't forget what I mentioned earlier about some of the stories from his younger days as well.
Oh, yeah.
The abuse that he claims he went through and stuff.
Everything, anything and everything he can use, he's going to throw at this case to make it go away.
I mean,
which is strange. Like, all he had to do is, from all reports, if he just had kept paying the money, this wouldn't have come out.
Yeah, and that's, well, even if they had an agreed upon amount, if you're in her position, it's almost like the snake eating its tail, right? Like, who could have blackmailed who here?
Uberus.
Yeah, who could have blackmailed who here? Because he had the information on her, she had the information on him, right? She could have said, you better keep paying me $500K a year after the initial payment was satisfied, or else I'm going to come forward with this because your NDA is null and void. It never was legitimate, and he could have threatened her in reverse. I'm going to reveal all this if I stop paying now. I'm going to stop paying now, and you better not say anything. So it's almost like at some point, who was going to blink first in these types of situations? It's just toxic, horrible. And you would have to think that if he had any kind of game and he has all this money, he could have, pulled some girl half his age legitimately without getting into weird legal situations like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of reports out there of, past relationships he's had with divas and stuff. Like, Vince, like, they don't all have to work for you.
Right.
I mean, it's probably convenient that way.
But maybe that plays into, he wants it to be because it is a power thing.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of the stuff Vince does is for power, like power plays and stuff. Like, we were going to do it coming up at some point, Wrestling with Shadows. Like, a lot of the stuff in that is Vince exerting his power, even when, you don't think he is. Like, he's a manipulator.
Yeah, and if you look at his life, so his early life, he was living with his mother, right? South Carolina, I believe. That's where he gets a bit of a southern twang when he can't hide it. And he found out who his real father was, right? Vince Sr. And he's like, I want to go live with him. And by the time he's 30 years old, he's on television announcing wrestling and stuff. His father passes away, and he takes over the company. He didn't have a good childhood. He's told stories about it too. Before he went with his biological father, I don't know if it was his mom's boyfriend or husband, his stepfather, but I think he tried to beat on him and stuff like that. So I think his entire life was about, I'm going to try to control everything so everything can't hurt me, right? And I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying I think that was his mindset, that if I control something, that thing can't hurt me. That's going to be my guess. So he took over the wrestling industry from coast to coast, right? What's next? I'll start controlling people at a personal level because I want to have that control, because if I'm in control, no one can control me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like he had complete control of the wrestling industry. Like, you couldn't work unless you worked for Vince McMahon for a fairly long period of time.
I'd say 89 to, probably 2002 for sure. Because he controlled ECW. They would have gone under in the mid-90s if he hadn't.
Yeah, and that WCW run was big, but it was brief compared to Vince's control over the entire industry.
Yeah, anyone who knew what was going on in WCW, and you can watch their documentaries on it, but you're gonna get a bit of bias in there. Like, even like a shit-eating Eric Bischoff, like with the look on his face, knowing he's not really able to tell you the whole truth. But if you read like The Death of WCW and some other books, you can see that whole company I don't think it was ever profitable, to be quite honest. I think they just were funding it with the rest of the Time Warner empire. And eventually someone said, nope, it's done. We're not going to pay for that anymore.
This is a black hole of money.
And that's the reason that company went under. It's not because of TV ratings or anything like that. It's because they said, we're not putting it on TV anymore. A certain executive at Time Warner, AOL Time Warner at that point, said it's over. Not because it wasn't getting, the ratings weren't 1995 ratings, but they're worse now than they were even then. So it's just because someone decided it's over because it wasn't making money. WWF
that was sinking so much money. Yeah, that was sinking so many. Like, they were just paying wrestlers not even to show up.
Yeah. Did you know that Lenny Poffo was signed?
Yeah,
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Until like a few years ago, I'm like, what are you talking about? They signed him and never used him. He was going to come in as Gorgeous George because Randy owned the gimmick. Lanny never used it, so that's why he named his little blonde girlfriend when he came back in '99 that, because he's like, I may as well use the name, you know, since I'm not going to do anything with the '50s gimmick. So, I wanted to get into this here. I want to see what Brian and Dave are saying. They're obviously biased. I don't think Dave. I gotta share audio here. I don't think Dave has liked Vince since the late '80s, if ever. There was a whole thing with steroids and the Donahue show. Did you ever see any of that, Blank?
I've seen some of the stuff from the steroid era and Vince, all the trial stuff.
Well, there was a sexual thing as well then, about allegations, not necessarily about Vince, but people speculate it was Pat Patterson, especially with men.
Yeah.
Midgets sometimes. So
Is that why there was all those midget Royal Rumbles and stuff?
yeah, more than likely. I remember
just having a great time out the back.
Yeah, I remember one of the stories being told on Donahue in the, I think it was like early '90s, very early '90s when that happened, and Dave was on there.
Look it up.
Tell me if you can hear this.
Saturday, where we talked for about.
Yeah, we're gonna speed this up too, but they're pretty biased, and this is where we get into beyond Vince. This whole who knew what and when did they know it, and I'm gonna give my take on that. Why at this point it's not really relevant. This is against Vince right now.
About 40 minutes regarding Vince McMahon and Paul Levesque and this lawsuit and everything else. And here we are on Monday, Dave, and what's new?
Not so much new. It's just how much coverage the thing has gotten. It was all over, CNN, New York Times, Deadline. Well, Deadline's had multiple stories, but they had another one today. A lot of it is the fallout of the press conference, talking about Vince leaving. CNN had one, and Deadline actually, I believe. Well, CNN had a story based on the idea of just the that they had, why did Ari Emanuel allow him in the company in the first place?
So a couple of things here. By the way, did that stop echoing when I muted myself?
No.
It's not echoing for me, FYI.
It's
Why
just
the hell is
me.
it?
Yeah.
Okay. So a couple of things here. Who are these guys? The guy on the screen is Dave Meltzer. He is the guy when it comes to like wrestling news, has been for almost 50 years now. He would type up these newsletters in tiny print and fold them up so they fit into a small envelope and mail them out for, $10-20 a month, and all the way back into the 70s and 80s. So if you had that come into your house, you were like a super fan because you were finding out all the backstage information. Very few people, I'd say in the 70s, 80s were signed up for that. You go into the 90s, the internet, the advent of the internet, and more people finding out who he is, signing up. I was a subscriber for several years. It's so damn hard to read those things because the print is just tiny. And it's all one continuous paragraph with topics separated by an ellipsis. I mean, it's just wild. You can get them online now, obviously. You don't have to have them mailed to your house. He had contacts. He still does have contacts all over the wrestling industry.
The dirt sheets.
The dirt sheets. He's been on interview documentary type stuff where they use him as a source. The younger guy, Brian Alvarez, he's been partnering with him for at least 2 decades now, because I remember Figure 4 Online being around like in 2001. So they know what they're talking about. I just, like when it comes to sources, they're not like the Doomcocks or anything like that. There were some other websites that had a lot of, this is going to happen, and it never does. But I think their takes are garbage a lot of times. And quite frankly, I think a lot of those lean toward kind of especially in recent years, toward the SJW side of stuff. Like, we'll just have to listen here. And they're always anti-establishment, all that type of stuff. Not really big fans of them, but since so many people watch and listen to them, I think it's important that we cover this and we dispel any notions that they have. This video isn't as bad as the one from Sunday morning, I think it was. Early in the morning it came out and they were attacking Triple H and all this stuff. a little bit more reserved in this one, but let's go over it here.
Place when they knew about this going in. And so Ari Emanuel and Paul Levesque have been taking a lot of heat the last couple of days.
Ari Emanuel is the CEO of TKO Entertainment that owns WWE now, and Paul Levesque is Triple H.
Yeah, Ari from Entourage.
Yep. I haven't seen that in a long time. Triple H is, what is his title? Chief Creative Officer, I think, like Dave Filoni, right? For Lucasfilm. I think he's Chief Creative Officer. Let's look this up. Paul Levesque. Chief Content Officer. My bad. He's still a CCO, just a different kind of CCO. It stands for something different.
We're airing more today. Levesque on Saturday. And so that's kind of it. I mean, as far as like what's going to happen next, I don't know. It appears that Brock Lesnar is not going to be around for a while. Some people think ever.
So they think it's Brock. I haven't heard them even mention Cain Velasquez, Blake. And
Well,
these
I don't know
guys.
those timelines match.
Well, let's check to see when Cain was in. Let's see, Cain Velasquez.
But my point was there's another UFC champion.
Let's see when he came into WWE here. 2019 to 2020.
No, I don't think it lines up.
Okay.
But Brock is a good candidate.
Yeah. I mean,
He's been Vince's bitch boy his whole career.
Yeah, there are no other world heavyweight champions from UFC that have been in WWE. They're just
they're the only two I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when it comes to talent, I hate to say forever because it is almost never the case, especially if someone can draw. They always seem to find a way back. But as far as Vince, I cannot imagine Vince coming back this time. I don't know. I mean, I was surprised last time.
I was going to say, we did say that last time, but there was a difference in that he was the owner of the company.
Well, he had
strong-armed his way back.
Yeah, and that's going to be the difference here. No company would ever take him back at this point because some of that is going to be true. Not necessarily all of it. Some of it's going to be he's not coming back. And I said this from the very beginning. When he came out on SmackDown and said goodbye to everyone, I think might have been Raw. It might have been both. When all this first started coming out a year and a half ago, he came out and basically said goodbye. And I said, this is it. But I did say he will find a way to get back in. And I was right. And then the story comes out about, he's coming back to broker the sale, right? And I said, no, it'll be more than that. If he's brokering the sale, you can bet your ass that he's going to find a way to stay in the company in that negotiation. And I was right. And once this is over, I'm going to tell you exactly how I think things played out with TKO, WWE, and Vince McMahon. But there's no way he's coming back. It's, to Brian's point, it's different this time because he has no control. When he sold to TKO, he had the 49%, I think. So he did not have the controlling interest. He's not the majority stockholder anymore. It's all gone. It was only a matter of time.
Yeah, they go into like B shares and stuff.
Correct.
Vince has got most of them, and
they're
all controlling ones, and it's pretty much the B shares are only set aside for the McMahon family.
Yeah, that's WWE went public, WWF at the time. Actually, it was WWFE at the time, officially. They were World Wrestling Federation Entertainment. This is like 3 years before the renaming happened in 2002. Mm-hmm. When they went public, even though he wasn't majority, to your point, he had, what they call the Type A stock that had more of a controlling interest, so that and it was smart. He assured that the McMahon family could never be the victims of a hostile takeover by anyone that wound up buying a bunch of shares. And that was smart, to be quite honest.
Sale.
Yeah, he had controlling interest in the stock. He was not the majority shareholder, but he had the majority of votes.
Speaking of the devil,
based on the way that when they went public, way back when, like 1999. He designed it so essentially his stock was worth more voting wise, or the McMahon family stock was worth more voting wise. So basically, it was basically designed so he could never have a hostile takeover, and he would always have control. Now with the sale, that was thrown out. All the old bylaws are out, and his stock is worth no more than anybody else's stock. He's got 11% of the company essentially, and he's the largest individual shareholder in the company, but not the largest shareholder in the company. And he can't force himself back. He can't do much of anything. It's really interesting how they were trying to portray how Vince really didn't have anything to do with WWE during this period, and was not really involved in day-to-day activities when he literally just negotiated the UFC deal with Saudi Arabia. So obviously he was involved in day-to-day activities because that was a major deal that he just negotiated. It wasn't like he was a figurehead, which now they're trying to portray that he was just a figurehead. He had nothing to do with the wrestling, and obviously Ari did take him away from the creative end of the wrestling fairly recently. I mean, he obviously had input until October, November. Before he was pulled from it. So that's not all that long ago.
Well, I think they have a saying, only Vince can go to Saudi Arabia. Well, no, they had that relationship there with these stupid Crown Jewel pay-per-views, and it's like, hey, let's do it with UFC. Who do we send in? We send him in. I think that was a special case where if they thought they had someone else where that negotiation would have been successful, they would have sent that person in instead of Vince, who was basically on deck. He already had the relationship with the royal family and all that stuff. So
Meltzer hasn't thought this through because he hasn't thought of the Mr. Connecticut angle.
Yeah. Did anyone
He'll
find
be
that
back.
meme? Let's check our DMs here. Nope.
I'll give you this.
Find the damn meme.
You can get the echo. Now, Jack. There you go.
What was that?
Jack wanted an echo.
That kind of echo?
I don't have
Never that kind of echo. All right.
But as far as like the press conference itself, having talked to several people and everything. I mean, the one thing because people have asked me this, well, what should he have done? And essentially, what he should have done is he should have come out at the start of the thing and just basically read a prepared speech that everyone went over and just said, that.
People really ask what he should have done.
Yeah, well, basically, they go, well, it's because I said like what he did was bad. Well, what should he have done? And it's like he should have had a speech out there.
Talked about it.
He should have read it. He should have said that, that
It's an ongoing legal matter.
It's an ongoing legal matter.
We cannot discuss.
We cannot discuss. Vince McMahon is no longer.
All right. So what they're talking about here is those stupid press conferences they have after WWE. What do they call pay-per-views now? Premium live events, right? Because they're no. Yeah, they're not pay-per-views anymore because they're on streaming. If you have the stream, it's a deal. Like I pay $7 for Peacock, I can watch that.
That's what I don't understand. Like they've lost an entire industry of pay-per-view.
Right. So anyway, they're talking about the stupid press conference they have after every one of those, and first some dork asked Kody about it. And Kody was very professional the way he handled it. I mean,
what are they going to say?
Well, exactly, and it was smooth. Well, then guess who comes out later? It's Triple H, right? And he's like, man, I'm so proud of Kody and all this. And I'm like, yeah, you're proud of the way he answered that, not about like his performance in the ring or anything.
Well, so then Triple H thinks Dana White doing these post fucking event press conferences.
Exactly. And some of them, like, here's the thing. Some of these outlets, I'm from, bash my head in the turnbuckle.com and stuff like that. Some of them are obviously fed and planted people out there, but why would these people that asked the question about Vince, they weren't planted, because why the hell would you plant someone with the question like that, right?
Yeah.
So that another person asked Triple H, and he said, I want to focus on the positive and all this. And he said, well, did you read the lawsuit? And he's like, no, I haven't read it. I just want to focus on the positive and all that. So that's the way it should have been handled. What Dave says here about the way he handled it is pretty much the same result, just a different method. But the last time these guys talked 5 days ago, they were going after him even harder. Like, he didn't do this and that and blah, blah, blah. But let's see what he says and tell me how that's different from what he actually said, which was, I want to focus on the positive, blah, blah, blah.
the company. He had to say something about Vince. By not saying Vince, he's running away from the story. So he had to say Vince McMahon is no longer with the company. Probably, if he wanted to be open and above board, should have mentioned Brock. Brock is one of the biggest stars in the company, but he could get away with not saying anything about Brock. But he would have to say something about Vince, and basically said we're working to create a better environment. Like when he was asked like what measures are being put in place, he should have had an answer for that. It's just like everything. That was a bad one, and the other bad one obviously was trying to act like it was a great week for the company when obviously it was anything but a great week for the company. It was probably the worst week for the company since 2007. It was a devastatingly bad week for the company, and so it was a very tone deaf answer. And that's probably a lot of what he should have talked about. They probably should have had something to talk about how just kind of like something as far as like as far as like just the healing of the company and where going to
the healing of the company. That's spelled HEELING. FYI.
Well,
the ultimate healing.
That's the best meme I've seen during all this is a picture of Vinnie Mac and John Laurinaitis, the best heel tag team in WWE.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that.
Not allow, we were working hard with measures and things like that in place, and something, he gave them nothing. And obviously, I know some people who said like, well, what he should have said, and he didn't make it any better. And I know a lot of people are calling for his head, and there's probably, Ari's getting a lot of negative coverage right now too, which he deserves. But as far as like anyone should they go, I think that we need more information before you're saying somebody should be gone. But I do think that they need to investigate, and they need to, not the one that they did the last time, and they need to find out, again, it's like, who knew? Lots of people knew, we know that. But as far as, what happened, or what has been happening, or the culture there, that's something that really needs to be, because obviously there's a lot more. It's been around for a long, long time. Yes, it stops and ends with Vince McMahon. He was the guy at the top. But as somebody said to me tonight, the whole place from the walls and everything was, pretty much crawling with, bad things, and they need to blast that place up, and they kind of do.
Well,
so here's the thing: like Triple H didn't make it any better. Well, what you said to do is read some kind of statement. He's not here. I don't think that would have made it worse or better. And what Triple H did say didn't either. It didn't make it worse. It didn't make it better. They're not going to answer questions like that, especially in that forum. In any forum. This is like an ongoing legal matter. Why the hell would they say anything about that? You saw the news. You didn't need to tell him he's no longer with the company. That was already released.
Yeah. I will say Triple H, if he said he didn't read the lawsuit filing, what's he doing?
I wouldn't have said that. But maybe what he was saying was true. Would you actually read it yourself, or would you have your legal resource read it?
Well,
right?
You'd say I'm aware of the details. Like I didn't read through it myself. Someone read it to me, or I am aware of the bullet points, and I'm aware of the shit that the company is currently going through. Just not just brush it off as Vince isn't here.
So that's probably the one blunder, and I have the take that anyone in an officer role should also serve as a public relations specialist, because you're going to get in front of a camera. I don't care if you're the chief human resources officer. I don't care if you're the chief counsel. I don't care if you're the CEO. You're also a public relations specialist. Now, if you're someone else,
big C's in your title, you've got media training, and you've got some form of experience in dealing with this stuff, and you should be able to, like, let's take politicians. You should be able to just get your point and brush it off.
we got to figure out why this is happening.
Yeah, it's always been its shares.
But not until recently.
It's probably some box ticked or some stupid tab or setting in StreamYard that no one knows about. Some obscure shit.
Well, they changed the way that the sharing happens. Can you hear this? Can you hear that?
No.
You can't hear the audio?
No.
Okay, because there is like a slider bar, and I thought maybe if you hit that, it double shares the audio, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's got something to do with like system audio versus the tab audio or something.
To share audio, share a tab or screen instead. We can't share a tab because I'm not using Edge. Yeah, I mean, I pay too much for StreamYard to deal with this crap. So when they say when they say it's echoing, is it the video or is it us?
It's me when I speak. They'll hear me twice.
Mute yourself.
People. I don't think virtually anybody.
I'm talking. Am I echoing chat? Tell me if I'm echoing now with Blake being muted. We're troubleshooting right here live on Ring into Focus, everyone. This is weird. I wonder if it happens with other guests? Like, did it happen on the spacing or anything?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does.
That's... It's regressing.
Of what ended up in that 67-page lawsuit. I think a lot of people suspected that...
Anyway, my point was that what he said to do was no different than what Triple H did. The only blunder was saying he didn't read it. But again, he might not have read it because that thing is 70 pages long. I'm like, hey, legal expert, do this. So either say no comment or say I've been briefed and let's move on. But at the end of the day, no one could expect any kind of real response naming Vince. It's an ongoing legal matter. That's the way the companies deal with this kind of stuff. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. Let's keep going.
Vince had girlfriends and, Laurinaitis. I think, there have been stories about stuff like that forever, but not to this degree. I mean, there was nobody, there was not one person that I talked to, and I talked to a lot of people that read the lawsuit and went, oh, you didn't know about that? Nobody said that. I mean, everybody was like, oh my God.
I had one person who didn't even work for the company, but, was best friends with someone who was, with the company for decades. And I said, like, man, it was like really, I learned, there's a whole lot there that I'd never heard before. And just goes, why are you so naive? He goes like, I was friends with X. I knew all of it.
Wow. Well, what is the end game? I mean, obviously, but Janelle Grant's lawsuit.
Well, I mean, it's really interesting because, at the end of the day, I think that a lot of people now, as when these things happen, you want to see the thing go to court. You want to see the truth come out. And again, like in most cases, almost all in these situations, you're not going to see that.
No, you're going to see a settlement here. He's exactly right. You're going to see a settlement. Nothing to do with Vince, but Ari Emanuel, TKO, they don't want this coming out. Not to protect Vince, but just so that they can move on. Vince is gone. They did their part. And this is a good time for me to give my take on this. Here's what happened. Ari Emanuel and blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. Like, if he had done something about this, if he quote-unquote knew, the deal never would have gone through. So I think this was a plan from the beginning. I'm not saying Ari was working with Janelle Grant or anything like that, but I think he had experts that knew how this was going to go down. Where, hey, broker the deal. You'll have controlling interest over WWE, right? Via TKO. Vince is going to bury himself. He no longer has control. You fire him, and everyone moves on, and yeah, you might have to pay a settlement. There was no way they were going to let Vince stay even in the position he was in as, what was it, executive chairman or something like that. There was no way that was going to happen long term. They knew this stuff was out there, to these guys' point right here. So to say, oh, Ari, let's hold him accountable. Well, if you're against Vince, then he's kind of the hero because he got rid of him. Pay people off and say, here's your settlement. Vince is gone forever, and he'll live forever alone probably because no one wants to be around his ass.
Live forever as a vampire. No. Well, someone leaked it from WWE.
Exactly.
Someone started leaking this stuff, so if there's a person up top that wants Vince gone, it's a good way to get him out.
Exactly. We have got a 2-month member chat from Mr. Grant Gregory, countryman of LiquidBlake here, saying, "Oi, you crazy buggers! Hope all is well. Through hate we love, roll ya dogs." Could you say that for me? How am I supposed to say roll ya dogs?
Oi, you crazy buggers, hope all is well. Through hate we love, roll your dogs.
Yeah, because if we do it, we wind up sounding like the guy from the Outback commercial.
He sounds
who's
British.
obviously not from
I don't know.
Britain.
You sound like I don't know what that accent was.
Well, you go into certain parts of England and they'll sound more like you guys than you know. That country probably has 20 different accents, man.
That country has an accent in every different street corner.
Every city, yeah, exactly. I can't believe that here in America, like, not even the originators of the English language, we're the only ones that say it correctly, like speak correctly.
Fuck off. You guys don't even use the U properly in words.
What do you mean the U?
Armor, honor. There's a U in those words.
Yeah,
It's
but
not just
spelling
OR.
has nothing to do with pronunciation.
No, but it all the English language it's all of it. You can't say you guys are the best ones at it. We clearly are. Like Australia's got it all. We don't even have to say the whole word anymore. We'll just halve it. People still know what we're talking about.
Oh, yo! Thanks for the membership for 2 months, Mr.
Cheers, man.
Gregory. Let's. We haven't played this one in a while.
We're not just doing this for money. We're doing it for a shitload of money.
That's great.
Right, we're
My
waiting
wife has actually been watching some Australian television shows on streaming.
Oh yeah, which one?
Like really weird dark comedy type shows. And usually set like in a trailer park. Do you guys have a lot of trailer parks around the country? Kind of like
yeah, more like you get rural and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's the culture's not the same as like the trailer parks in America and stuff. Like it's less. Well, I mean, this is a generalization, but they're less for living in and more for holidaying in.
A smack shack.
Yeah.
Vince probably had one somewhere a couple miles out of town and Stanford, right? So
you don't know what's in there. There could still be someone in there.
Because he was born trailer trash, so he probably wanted to feel at home. So he had a little smack shack a couple miles out of town. So
that's how he got from arena to arena. He just had a big trailer behind his car.
Yeah.
I'm surprised more wrestlers didn't do that, to be honest. You know, you hear them, you know, the life on the road and stuff. I'm surprised more of them didn't have like an RV or like a trailer thing.
Have you seen the Iron Claw yet?
No.
So at the very beginning of the movie, Fritz, it's when he was still wrestling, probably in the late 60s, it looked like that scene was from. It was in like black and white and stuff. He goes out to the car and they have like a trailer hooked up. So, you know, that made sense.
It makes like...
Because he had his family with him.
Yeah, yeah. But even like ones like... You're on the road for however, like 300 days a year or something. You just just sleep in your car.
Right. Anyway, that's my theory there. I'll sum it up, and I want you to give me your thoughts on that. That hey, they wanted this company, it was up for sale. They negotiated with Vince. They signed the deal. He doesn't have control anymore. They give him some stupid title that made no sense. What's an executive chairman? I've never even heard of that. And then they know this stuff is going to come out. It's pretty public, all these allegations. They only had to wait, what, a year? Less than a year? This deal was announced about almost exactly a year ago because I went live when it went public. And then the deal was made, in September, I think it was finalized. And then not even 6 months later, and he's gone. They had to have known that's how it would play out. They're done with him. He's out of there. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, if you look at the timeline, I mean, they'd have that information if they did their due diligence into the company and stuff. They'd have that information of the June. What was it? June 22 when the
Uh-huh.
information about the payout started to come out. I can see that. There was also there was supposed to be like a Netflix biopic about Vince. I don't know if that's going to be still
Yeah,
happening.
you're right. There was. And I guarantee it's something else I'm going to get into is about Vice. There's going to be probably an entire season on this in the next year.
Oh, they could do Dark Side of the Ring. They could do an entire season on just this alone. But yeah, someone leaked it from WWE as they mention in the filing.
Yeah, but my point is, with all the
You've gotta
stuff from
have-
22, Ari Emanuel and them knew about it. So
Yeah,
they
but
signed the deal
yeah.
anyway because they knew he'd be gone.
Yeah, and
Like
then
Vince is
someone
the one that
yeah.
looks like an idiot in all of this.
Yeah, and then someone within the company starts to leak the information out to get the ball rolling on, because they wanted Vince gone. I don't think they expected Vince to do that move where he just came back and was like, I'm here, I'm still in charge kind of shit.
Mhm.
Like, I don't think they were expecting Cowboy Vince to turn up and just completely like write his own playbook.
Mhm.
And I think they sort of, maybe someone got pissed off and was like, all right, let's leak a bit more of this stuff. Maybe we'll stop the payment ourselves. If the payment's coming from TKO and WWE for these people for hush payments, let's stop the payment ourselves so this woman can actually come out and bury Vince, and then we don't have to get rid of him. She's done it for us.
Yeah, exactly.
I could see a scenario where that plays out, but it's all just speculation. It's all he's not even guilty of anything.
Well, he's the one that looks like an idiot because I don't know if they were in a position where they had to sell. I don't think they were doing that bad when it came to performance financially. So if he had just kept the company independent, then he could have perpetually stayed in control.
Yeah, he would. Yeah, he'd be just completely stonewalling this if he was still in. Like, you wouldn't have heard a whisper of this if Vince was the be all end all ultimate power still.
Right.
Because it's like, as you said, like it's a pretty much the last 3 years it's sort of started to crumble for Vince in the ownership of WWE. Like I haven't been a fan of WWE since probably 05, 04. So I've I hear people talking about the product on screen and it doesn't sound anywhere near what not just what it used to be. It doesn't even sound entertaining anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some bright spots, but it'll never be what it was during
Yeah,
the
well, that's
two
what you
different
hear.
golden
Yeah.
eras.
Yeah, like you just hear about like something will happen and it'll get some buzz for a month, but then that just dies off. Like I think the last one was like that CM Punk return to WWE, which no one sort of, you never say never in the wrestling business. And when there's only one company that, has the worldwide clout, you've only really got one or two options to work for. They're always going to try and go back to the number one. But CM Punk, he's like gone now as well anyway. So it's like, it's a flash in the pan, little bit of a media bump, but then it just dies back down to relative obscurity.
Yeah, I found another slider bar that I unclicked. I don't know if that helped any. Chat, let us know. But this,
I don't know if it's just the videos, but so when you share like tweets and stuff like that, I don't think it echoes all the time, but
Okay.
definitely during the videos for some reason.
But
this is fine. I don't think it's echoing now. I can't hear it anyway.
So this Tim Marchman guy is with Vice, and they're really going after this.
Garbage entity.
Yeah, and I what he's going after is this tweet here doesn't say it. I think this one does. We're actively investigating this, as other outlets are. I have no interest in sharing our reporting before it's ready. but obviously there is no reason to think this problem started and stopped with Vince McMahon. But again, my point is, this is about Vince right now. The lawsuit is against Vince.
And Johnny.
And Johnny and WWE.
WWE's
It's
involved.
about them.
Yeah.
No one else is named in
Vince's
it. In fact,
action.
well, in fact, the lawsuit excludes other people as being defendants here. So here's my question.
Just
Here's
the
my
parties.
question. Where is the line between you're a victim because you're under Vince's power, including up to Triple H? Yeah, it's his son-in-law, whatever. But why isn't he excused because he was under Vince's power while other people are not for just walking away? Janelle didn't walk away. Neither did Triple H. What's the difference? What if Triple H had walked away? Vince could have gone after him in multiple ways, taking his kids away from him.
Yeah, specifically John Laurinaitis. Like, for that one, because he continued the relationship with the woman in like
but that's my point. He was involved. I'm talking about people that were basically this Marchman guy here is insinuating that people were turning a blind eye to this stuff. But that happens in companies all the time. What are you going to do? Like walk away? Yeah, a lot of people probably did. But if you're Triple H and you're married to Vince's daughter and you have kids with him, at the end of the day, blood is thicker than water. What did he think was going to happen if he walked away? Oh, I may know of these things happening. I'm never going to see my kids again. Like, where is the line between potential victim and somebody just what's the term there when you're turning a blind eye to something, right? Where is the line? No one can answer that question.
Yeah, I mean,
no one's even talking about it. Like, let's just go after Triple H. He knew about it. These anti-authority people that are anti-authority for no good reason.
Well, yeah, and you get into like, guilt versus complicity. Like, Vince and John, they're being looked at as guilty, whereas Triple H is being looked at as complicit. And you get any company like that. Like there was the whole
thank you, complicit. Yes,
yeah.
That's
in Harvey Weinstein. Like everyone, you still got Leslie Headland. Like, how much did she know about what Harvey Weinstein was doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like Kevin Smith. Like Kevin Smith used to say like off-color random jokes about stuff Harvey Weinstein was doing on his podcasts in like the early 2000s. Like, people knew stuff was going on, but how much, do you just think it's hearsay as well? Or do you actually know what's going on? Do you have, did you see it with your own eyes? Or are you just saying, oh, Harvey's, that's Harvey. And Kevin's just like, yeah, well, that's Harvey. But Vince,
I got one for you.
Vince, there's a lot of stuff where you could think people are definitely covering for Vince.
I got one for you, and I think you may be right, Jack. I never really saw him as being, hey, you're part of this real inner circle here. He might have been part of the outer circle, but not necessarily the inner circle. But I got one for you here. Yeah, the clique. Should the Secret Service agents have told on Clinton for the blowjobs?
Well, that's the thing. Like, how well, something like that. That's how much respect you put in the badge. I guess they have a badge, Secret Service badge. How much respect you put into the badge, like versus just an individual who is your employer. Like Clinton, like you don't have to like the president, but all you're doing is protecting him. You don't have to protect you're protecting his life. You're not protecting his reputation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, some would make the argument that you're protecting the integrity of the office. And you're not really, because you have to separate the office from the individual. And that's when you don't do that, you get tyranny. So, but that's a big aside there. The point is, people like this go after the topic. And the topic is specific people are being sued for this and what really is the truth, not who was complicit in it. Was it Triple H and whoever? People are going to go after who they perceive to be a target and a bad guy, a heel, right, in this situation. And
Well, they
seems
will
to
go
be the
after
one
them.
in this situation.
They will go after him, and I think justifiably for if it comes out that, like they say in the filing, that Janelle Grant gave this information to the investigation team, which was, you know, headed up by Stephanie McMahon or the executives in WWE or TKO or whatever. If it comes out that they did ignore all that and just completely swept it under the rug, that's when you'll start to see like these people were complicit, and more heads might roll than just is named at the moment. But that's a long way away.
Yep. Here's really the last one, and I think this is disgusting, to be honest. Cage side seats, in my estimation, garbage tier outlet. We've got M. Gomez, the writer here, cleaning the canvas, scrubbing Vince McMahon from wrestling history. Allegations against McMahon should prompt WWE and the wrestling industry to remove his stain from its history.
Stop right there. That headline, the first word, well, the subheadline, the first word there is, that's where you stop. Like, allegations against
Correct.
McMahon should prompt WWE and the wrestling. No, if all this comes out with guilt, or, you know, things start to come out that, you know, is irrefutable proof, even if there's like a settlement and stuff, like people start to talk and more information comes out, then you can start talking about this. But even then, scrubbing him from history is like, that's just censorship on a completely different level. Like, that's what we were talking about, I think, a couple of weeks ago when I was saying like WWE's attempt to erase Chris Benoit from all pay-per-views, all video highlight reels, everything. It does a disservice, I think, to the actual
but
industry.
That, you know, that's not happening anymore.
Yeah,
That
I know. Yeah,
lasted
we
about
talk,
8 months. Yeah, I mean,
so how long will the Vince McMahon scrubbing from wrestling history last? Will he come?
Well,
you know,
let's see what this dipshit is actually saying here, because that headline may be a clickbait type of thing.
Yeah.
Following the unsettling allegations, blah blah blah. They're working to distance themselves. That includes accepting and announcing his swift resignation. Okay, here it is. Vince McMahon must be erased from WWE history. It would be wonderful if somehow WWE could scrub McMahon's presence from everything related to the company. But that is an unrealistic endeavor, so yeah, we had clickbait there. Instead, WWE must take the same approach with McMahon as it did with Chris Benoit and Jimmy Snuka.
Yeah, but that was, as you said, it was temporary.
Mm-hmm.
So what's a stopgap? What, to make people feel better for 5 years? And how are you going to scrub Vince McMahon from? That's
well. Let's
he's like in every segment for like the last, from like 97 to 2005. He's like in almost every segment.
Yeah, let's read this here. See what they're proposing. Following the 2007 double murder-suicide where wrestler Chris Benoit murdered his wife Nancy and their 7-year-old son Daniel before hanging himself, all mentions of Benoit by WWE ceased. Outside of his appearance in past events for WWE, World Championship Wrestling, and Extreme Championship Wrestling, Benoit was rarely, if ever, featured again in best-of videos, documentaries, and tributes. But they actually did, for a while, stop even the past stuff. They would cut the stuff out, but then I think they realized, oh, we can't do this forever. Because I remember before the network, it was the on-demand service. Within like a year and a half, he was back again. Because I was watching, trying to remember the name of it, Monday Night War, I think is just what they called it. And they would only upload like Raw and Nitro once a month, like one episode. It kind of sucked because you had to wait every month. And he was already back within 18 months on those old shows. So when WWE references Randy Orton's first title win, which was over Benoit at SummerSlam in 2004, only a victorious Orton holding the belt in celebration is featured. Concerning Benoit's championship accomplishments, they remain intact on WWE's title history webpage. However, upon clicking on his name, a blank field appears with no mention of how he won a particular title, to perhaps avoid giving the impression of honoring his memory. And that's what WWE must do with McMahon. His likeness should remain untouched in depictions of past events for historical accuracy only. However, future references to WWE's past should exclude any mention of McMahon, his title history, which includes a brief stretch, blah, blah, blah. That's impossible. He made WWF, WWE.
It's like
Literally.
it's like asking someone to describe the sky without using the color blue. It's like you can't talk about the WWE without mentioning Vince McMahon.
Exactly. And even suggesting that, you don't want to call it cancel culture. It's more about revisionist history is what it is.
Yeah.
Because it did happen. He did what he did. He did take out every other territory. He won. I mean, he did stuff none of the other promoters were willing to do, or if they were, they weren't very successful at. He created the biggest event ever in history, WrestleMania, 1985. It happened, guys. Like, there's no getting around that. You can separate the character, Mr. McMahon, from Vince, but you also have to separate truth, what he did in history that was, I don't know how you want to say this, good or neutral, depending on how you look at it, versus what was objectively bad if all these allegations are true.
Yeah.
You can't say, oh, he did some bad stuff. Nothing else he did should ever be acknowledged, because it did happen, guys. It's the truth. Hard to disagree with that. This is somebody here, M. Gomez, just virtue signaling. That's all this is.
Oh yeah,
it's allegations. Yeah, and do I believe some of it's true? Probably. I mean, we know kind of how he is, but at the end of the day, he revolutionized the industry. Some people would say what he did was bad, but again, in my mind, he took down one of the biggest criminal enterprises in U.S. history that was pretty much ignored. I have to make that video sometime. We got Blue-Eyed Scorpio in the house. Gonna see a bunch of movies I'm boycotting just so I can talk shit about them. Yeah, that's the thing to do.
Yeah, Dune's coming up. That'll be fun to watch everyone talk about that one.
Yeah, the fucking boring too. Like, golly. The original one sucked and was boring. I remember it was on HBO all the time when I was a kid. But that's the gist of it, guys. Like, yeah, I do believe some of this is true, because just from interviews and what we know of the guy, hard to not believe some of this. But at the same time, we have to wait until the truth comes out. He's gone. His punishment's over. We can't revise history.
And honestly, like, does anyone really think this is going to end in like a, Vince going to jail, Vince found guilty sort of shit, or is it just going to be a settlement?
Right.
But that's the thing I don't understand. Like, maybe, like we talked about it before, if the payments were coming from WWE and that they stopped the payments, and that's why this is coming out. But like, if Vince, all he had to do was pay this woman off, which apparently, like, from reports he's been doing for years in other things, like from the three other women that came forward in the filings. It's so bizarre. Like, from a guy who's that rich, literally it's like you just let your monthly bill lapse or something and you forgot about it. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, it is. By the way, the original Raw is War song is like the best one they ever had. Who was that? Was that Anthrax that did that song?
I can't even remember.
Raw is War theme.
I remember my favorite one. I think it had Kane in it a lot. It had heaps of the fire. It was just when Kane sort of broke onto the scene.
I'm thinking of We're All Together Now.
Oh, yeah.
Let me see. What band was that? It doesn't even
Yeah,
say.
Best case scenario settlement, worst case jail. I think it'd be a pretty long stretch to think Vince is going to jail.
Yeah. Now, when you say worst case, I don't even know if that's a possibility unless they can prove from an SEC standpoint that the funds used there were like a violation, to make the payoffs.
Yeah, they weren't private funds; they were, company money sort of thing. Yeah. And the sex trafficking one. That's the one that's going to be, I think, the sticking point, like how they adjudicate the terminology there. If it is sex trafficking or if it's more, I don't want to say a lighter.
Yeah.
I don't even, you can say it on YouTube. I don't want to say like a lighter crime than sex trafficking. And I don't want to even say it's a lighter crime, but the word you can't say on YouTube.
Yeah.
If Vince gets charged for trafficking or the actual grape.
Yeah, exactly, Chris. Like they're never going to get rid of that feud.
Yeah, it's like an entire 2 years, or like McMahon versus Stone Cold. It's like a 10-year chunk of the history of the company, and it just so happens to be like the turning point to be like the most popular point of the company.
Now what Peacock did when they first moved over. NBC made them erase some segments and stuff from Raw. Some
I heard about
politically
that.
incorrect ones. Yeah. So
Any of the Katie Vick stuff?
What?
Any of the Katie Vick stuff?
I don't know. I'll have to check. I'll find a way to check on that.
I just remember that was that was around the time I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of weird shit in that era with like bizarre.
I wasn't watching.
Yeah, bizarre. Sort of
the
like
guy
things
that punted the baby into the audience.
I don't remember that.
What was that guy's name? He was feuding with Kane, and Lita was in the middle of it. Was it Lita or?
Ah,
and
was he blonde? Was he blonde?
No, dirty blonde.
Oh, I was gonna say Heidenreich.
No, it wasn't Heidenreich. It was
Wasn't Gene Snitsky?
Gene
Snitsky. Yeah.
He punted like a baby into the audience. It was obviously not a real baby, but
No.
that was that era was really strange. I wasn't watching, but I was reading the news like on Wrestling Observer, and I'm like, what in the hell's happening? So,
do you remember Eugene?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was definitely a time. That was an interesting period.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably Moz's. If Mozza was a wrestler, he'd be Eugene.
Oh, jeez. By the way, the band that did that song, they named themselves Slam Jam, and they were a super group. You had Scott Ian from Anthrax. You had Gary Meskel from Crumbsuckers. Kenny Hickey from Typo Negative. And then you even had the singer from Trans-Siberian Orchestra. So it was a fucking metal super group that did the Raw is War theme.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
They've had some good themes.
We're all together now. Yeah, that was good.
Much better than
I didn't like the Smash Mouth song. Is it Smash Mouth? No, it was Papa Roach.
Yeah.
I didn't like that one. But the one from like 05 to 07 was good. Trying to think of the name of that one. What was that one? I can hear it in my head. I just can't even think of the lyrics. They actually used Marilyn Manson for a while. Then they started using that on SmackDown many years later.
Yeah.
They've done that a couple
Wasn't the Beautiful People, was it? No.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Was it? Yeah.
Yep, it was. Just trying to think of that one from 05 to 07. It was Union Underground was the name of the band.
Yes,
It
that's
went,
right.
Yeah, it went. Move to the music, move to
Yeah.
the fucking music. Yeah, that's how it went.
Across the nation.
Yeah, Across the Nation. That was a good one. But
Yeah.
we're going to wrap it up here, guys, because I will be going live in about 7 hours here with the new format, shorter streams, more streamlined. Get it done so I can wake up at a decent time. I have to help someone move tomorrow, because if you own a truck, you're always a candidate for that job, unfortunately. At least it's going to be nice weather, and it won't be like we're freezing our asses off. I moved like in 20-degree weather, and it sucks. So,
Yeah.
ought to be good.
Yeah,
but hey,
you don't want it to rain on the day you're fucking moving. That's the worst.
no, you don't. But thanks for being here at, what was it, 5 in the morning?
6.
6 in the morning for you? Yeah, thanks for doing that. Appreciate it. It's,
No worries.
What, Saturday for you right now?
Yeah, Saturday, 8:20 a.m. Rest of the day ahead of me.
Well, take a power nap and get up and get it done, man.
No, I can't. I can't sleep once I wake up.
Me neither. I don't nap. Never heard of her. I only sleep 4 to 5 hours a day. I'm just one of those people that I keep my adrenaline going. I'm always doing something, whether I'm making videos here, or I'm working outside, or I'm working at work, or I'm having to go to the store to get this. I'm always moving. It's like almost like cocaine runs through my blood naturally. I'm just always, always going. So anyway, rewind it, guys, if you join, so you can see our Vince McMahon impressions. I think mine was pretty damn good.
We should give him one on the
On the
one
outro?
Yeah, on the outro.
All right, you go first, and then I'll go second.
All right. Here we go.
Come on out, you rapist.
All right, pretty good, pretty good. Let me see if I can do it here. And I'm going to hit the button for the outro. See you guys later tonight.
Come on out, you rapist.